To grade or not to grade? That is the question. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about grading, covering the pros and cons of having your vintage toys graded. And in the background, I'll be showing some past video footage of some recently graded items that I got back about a couple months ago. I've just started grading my items, I should say, and so far I've had a very positive experience with it. But why would you have something graded? Well, there's a number of reasons, and in no particular order, here's some of the reasons why you would have something graded. Number one, to preserve the item. I've actually had vintage collectibles get damaged because of dust or moisture, and so encasing your collectibles in acrylic prevents that kind of loss and damage and loss of value that can go with it. So that's one reason, kind of an obvious reason to have something graded and put in acrylic. Another reason is presentation. Having something graded presents a toy as if to say, this is a work of art and it should be considered as such and examined by experts. And to me as a collector, I kind of like my toys being presented that way because it really elevates the toy. Another reason is validation. The item is examined and rated, and it's confirmed that it hasn't been tampered with if it's a mint on card or mint sealed item. And so this is desirable for both a seller and a buyer. It's kind of like when you buy a house or a car, you have it inspected to give you some assurance that things are in good working condition and that you're more or less getting what you pay for. And so grading functions like that. It provides some validation for what you're buying. And the next reason relates to the last reason, perhaps a little controversial, and that's to maximize the value you receive as a seller. So in other words, to make more money off of it, off of your vintage toys. I haven't been selling any of my graded items, and really can't imagine parting with them at this point in time. But if you're thinking long term that either you or a family member will someday cash out of the hobby, which is inevitable because unless you plan on being buried with your physical possessions like a pharaoh, you can't take it with you. So if you accept that reality, like most people would, it is having collectibles and grading them is kind of an investment because these things aren't free and you'd rather not lose money on them. And so grading provides a degree of insurance that you will get back what you put into it or even a little extra. I know a lot of people are very purist about the hobby, and that's a valid position to say that you really shouldn't be thinking about it in terms of making money or investment, and people are very passionate about that opinion. But that is one reason why people have things graded. Let's keep it real. So with all those reasons to grade, why would you not grade something? Well, here, let me cover sort of that position of not having things graded in no particular order. So one reason is to keep your toys tangible. So for adult collectors, toys are sort of memory triggers, and there's something really nice about being able to touch your toys and hold them in your hand. This is kind of the position of the YouTube channel All Things 80s. He talks a lot about that as his reason for collecting. It's all about nostalgia and being able to hold the items in hand. And I think that's totally valid. I enjoy that channel, All Things 80s. and appreciate his sentiments for collecting. That being that, you know, you get to hold them in your hand and have memories triggered for yourself. Another reason not to grade is you'll miss that toy smell, because there's nothing like the smell of something to bring back memories. Another fellow YouTuber, Blacked Out Ewoks, just did a funny video where he's smelling some of his vintage Star Wars figures, and I do that, so I totally identify with this reason. That a particular potpourri of chemicals is immediately recognizable and can bring back a flood of childhood memories. It's pretty fascinating. And so a good reason not to grade is to continue to experience that toy smell. Another reason not to grade is presentation, because now you can actually buy acrylic cases from companies like GW Acrylic, and that kind of nullifies one of the purposes of having them graded that I mentioned earlier. Another YouTuber, Blue Harvest Vintage Toys, has done a few videos where he's shown off his GW acrylic cases. And upon seeing them, I've been really impressed with how nice they look. And it's presumably much more affordable just to get some nice acrylic cases and put your toys in them yourself. And those cases look almost identical to what you get from grading companies like AFA or CAS. So why would you pay the extra to have them graded? Another reason not to grade is that grading companies can be wrong. To error is human, and there's no guarantee that the grade is valid or that a grading company hasn't overlooked something major. I tend not to be conspiratorial that grading is an outright scam. Rather, I think there can be oversights. A case in point, of course, is the Toy Tony scandal, where a guy was out there buying a lot of leftover inventory and then sealing the figures to cards and then representing them as the genuine article. There are a lot of Toy Tonys out there on the market now that were graded and that passed the test as far as being legitimate, and so that's kind of a big case in point for grading companies not really being that not really being able to detect fraud. So I think it's more common that grading companies maybe just don't do sufficient research and overlook something or didn't label it correctly, especially when it comes to variants, because you can really go down the rabbit hole on variants. And it just goes to show you that the expertise of grading companies is not all-knowing. I mean, they have to consult resources just like you or I would to see about a variant or how to label something. So where do I come out on grading? Well, by this video you can see that I'm someone who grades my items, and I've just recently started having things graded, and I've really been pleased with the process. I've been working with CAS. And just personally, why I grade my items is I had all these awesome vintage Star Wars collectibles just kind of lying around in boxes, and I really kind of felt guilty about it. And so I've been showcasing my stuff on YouTube, and people are like, really, you need to have that. Those are important pieces, and you should really have them graded and preserved. And like I say, I really like the presentation of having something graded, having it presented as if it's a work of art and examined by experts, and I really enjoy the look of it, and also having it preserved. So, but I can also understand the counter position of not wanting things to be graded. I know people are passionate about both positions and have valid reasons not to have things graded or to have things graded. I guess as a collector and member of this collecting community, I would just say there's room for disagreement. Reasonable people can disagree over that stuff, and I wouldn't get hateful about it in either direction. So what's your opinion? Should you have your items graded, or should you leave them ungraded to where they're tangible and you can smell them and so forth? What's your opinion? Please leave a comment, and thanks for watching.